You are stuck, not because you lack talent or opportunity, but because you do not understand the invisible forces running your life. Your relationships keep falling apart in the same way. Your patterns repeat, no matter how hard you try to break them. You feel disconnected from the people around you, even when you are surrounded by them. You know what you should do, but you cannot seem to do it. Every day feels like you are fighting against yourself, and you are losing. The truth is this: your life is being controlled by habits, beliefs, and behavioral patterns that were installed long before you had any choice in the matter. But here is what changes everything. Understanding how human behavior actually works gives you the power to change it. In the next 10 chapters, you will discover the exact psychology behind why people do what they do, including yourself. You will learn practical tools that work immediately, not someday. You will stop being a passenger in your own life and become the driver. Your transformation does not require waiting for perfect conditions. It starts right now, today, with the first step you are about to take. Chapter 1. Recognize the truth about yourself and your hidden potential. There is a moment in every person's life when they stand at a crossroads. Not the dramatic kind you see in movies, but a quiet moment where everything becomes clear. You look in the mirror, and for the first time, you truly see yourself. Not the person you pretend to be in front of others, not the version you created to survive in a world that demands so much from you, but the real you, the version that holds untapped power, unlimited potential, and the capacity to transform everything around you. This chapter is about arriving at that moment and staying there long enough to let it change your life forever. Most people never truly know themselves. They move through life on autopilot, following patterns they learned as children, repeating behaviors they inherited from their parents, and believing stories about who they are that were written by circumstances and other people's opinions. They wake up at 40 and realize they have no idea what they actually want. They excel in careers that drain their souls. They maintain relationships that suffocate their spirit. They pursue goals that mean nothing to them, all because they never stop to ask one simple question: who am I really? The truth is harsh but liberating. You have been living according to a false version of yourself. This false version was constructed over years through the judgments of others, your own limiting beliefs, past failures, and 1,000 small moments where you decided you were not enough. Every time someone told you that you were too quiet or too loud, too ambitious or not ambitious enough, too sensitive or too cold, you absorbed that message. You took it in, built walls around certain parts of yourself, and amplified other parts to feel safer. The result is that you have been operating at a fraction of your actual capacity. But here is where hope enters. Underneath all of that conditioning, underneath all of those layers of protection and adaptation, there is a version of you that has never been damaged. There is a core part of your being that remains untouched by the world's criticism and your own self-doubt. This is the part that knows the truth. This is where your genuine potential lives. This chapter will teach you how to find it and how to let it come alive. The first step toward recognizing the truth about yourself is to understand that you are not your thoughts and you are not your circumstances. This is fundamental. Most people believe that their thoughts are facts and their current situation is permanent. If you think you are bad at public speaking, you believe that this is who you are. If you have failed at starting a business, you assume you are not an entrepreneur. If you are struggling financially, you accept that you are poor. These are stories, not truths. They are interpretations of events, not facts about your nature. Think about a child before the world teaches them who they should be. A child does not judge itself. A child feels afraid and then does things anyway. A child fails and immediately gets back up to try again. A child does not carry shame about their mistakes, like a weight on their shoulders. A child believes it can do almost anything because nothing has yet proven that it cannot. You were that child once. That capacity for resilience, for learning, for courage is still inside you. It has not disappeared. It has only been buried under layers of protection and doubt. Here is what you need to know about your hidden potential. It is not hidden because it does not exist. It is hidden because you have trained yourself not to look at it. You have made a habit of focusing on your weaknesses, your failures, your shortcomings, and your limitations. You have become an expert at pointing out everything wrong with yourself. This habit is so strong that you have actually trained your mind to filter out evidence of your strengths and capabilities. When you accomplish something, you minimize it. When someone compliments you, you reject it or assume they are just being nice. When things go well, you credit luck rather than your own abilities. The human mind is designed to move toward pleasure and away from pain. When looking at your potential feels painful because you have failed in the past or because it requires you to take risks you are afraid to take, your mind naturally avoids it. It is easier to convince yourself that you are limited than to face the fear of trying and failing again. But this protection mechanism is actually keeping you imprisoned. It is keeping you small. It is preventing you from becoming who you are meant to be. Let me be clear about something. Recognizing your truth is not about ego or arrogance. This is not about convincing yourself that you are special or better than anyone else. True self-recognition is about honest assessment. It is about seeing what is actually there without the distortion of fear or the weight of past narratives. Some people have talents they have never developed. Some people have strengths they have never discovered because they have only looked in the places where they are already comfortable. Some people have capacities for growth that they have never tested because they accepted someone else's opinion about their limits. Here is a practical exercise that will help you begin this journey of recognition. Find a quiet space where you can be alone for at least 30 minutes. Bring a notebook or open a document on your computer. At the top of the page, write this question: what do people often ask me for help with? This is important because the things people come to you for are usually things you are naturally good at. Someone asks you for advice about their relationships because you have an instinct for understanding people. Someone asks you to help them plan because you can see the bigger picture clearly. Someone asks you to talk them through their fear because your presence is calming. These are not accidents. These are indicators of genuine strength. Write down everything that comes to mind. Do not judge it. Do not dismiss anything as too small or too common. Just write. Your friend trusts you with her secrets. Your colleague wants your opinion before making decisions. Your family calls you when they need to solve a problem. A stranger at a coffee shop finds themselves telling you their life story. These are all evidence of capability. They are proof that something in you is working right. Next, write down the moments in your life when you felt most alive. Not necessarily moments when you were happy in the passive sense, but moments when you felt fully present and engaged. Maybe it was when you were creating something. Maybe it was when you were helping someone. Maybe it was when you were learning something new or rising to a challenge. These moments are doorways into understanding what actually matters to you and what activates your deepest resources. Then write down the things you have survived. Every person reading this has been through something difficult. Every person has faced rejection, loss, disappointment, fear, or shame. And every person who has faced these things and is still here has proven something vital about themselves. You are more resilient than you think. You are more capable of handling difficulty than your current self-image allows you to believe. The fact that you have survived everything you have been through up to this point means that you have within you the capacity to survive and thrive through whatever comes next. Now here is the part that changes everything. Take all of this information you just gathered and ask yourself, If this is true about me, why am I not living like it is true? Why am I not leaning into these strengths? Why am I not saying yes to opportunities that would let me use these capabilities? Why am I spending so much time on things that do not matter and so little time on things that light me up? The answer to these questions will reveal your core limiting beliefs. Your limiting beliefs are the operating system running in the background of your life, determining what you see as possible and what you see as impossible for yourself. These beliefs were often installed when you were young and defenseless. Someone told you that you were not smart enough, or brave enough, or attractive enough, or worthy enough. You had a failure, and you decided it meant something permanent about your nature. You tried, and you got hurt, and you decided that trying again was too dangerous. These beliefs have been running automatically ever since, filtering every experience through their lens. Here is what makes this work. The moment you become aware that a belief is a belief and not a fact, you gain the power to question it. You gain the power to examine whether it is actually true. You gain the power to replace it with something more accurate. A limiting belief is like a tyrant that only has power as long as it remains invisible. The moment you drag it into the light and look at it directly, its power begins to dissolve. Think about someone you know who is thriving. Think about someone who seems to be living a life that makes you feel inspired and jealous and hopeful all at the same time. What do you think is different about them? Most people think that this person must have more talent, or more luck, or more money, or more time. But I will tell you what is actually different. They believe something different about themselves. They believe that they are capable of learning. They believe that setbacks are information, not verdicts. They believe that they are worth the effort it takes to pursue what matters to them. They have a different operating system running, and that is why they are getting different results. You have the power to install a new operating system. This is not metaphorical. This is neuroscience. Your brain is plastic, meaning it has the capacity to change throughout your entire life. The pathways that seem permanent can be redirected. The patterns that seem automatic can be interrupted. The beliefs that feel like facts can be questioned and replaced. But this requires something from you. It requires that you stop accepting the first story your mind tells you about who you are and what is possible for you. Here is what recognizing your truth really means. It means being brave enough to look at yourself without flinching. It means acknowledging the ways you have been small and the reasons why you made that choice to be small. It means seeing that those reasons made sense at the time. Your mind was trying to protect you. Your body was trying to keep you safe. But you are not that vulnerable anymore. You are older now. You are stronger now. You are smarter now. You have resources you did not have then. You have options you did not have then. You have knowledge you did not have then. It also means acknowledging the strength that has brought you to this moment. Whatever is reading these words right now is the part of you that is ready to change. Whatever is listening to this audiobook is the part of you that knows there is more possible. Whatever is feeling that restlessness and dissatisfaction with the status quo is the part of you that has never forgotten what you are capable of. Do not discount this. Do not minimize this. This awareness is the beginning of transformation. The truth about you is that you are far more capable than you have allowed yourself to believe. You are far more resilient than your current self-image suggests. You are far more valuable than you have given yourself credit for. You have strengths that you have not discovered. You have talents that you have not developed. You have a capacity for growth that you have not tested. And most importantly, you have the power to change every story you have been telling yourself about who you are. This is not something that happens overnight. Recognizing the truth about yourself is a practice, not a destination. It is something you will need to return to again and again, because the world will keep trying to convince you that the old stories are true. Other people's doubts will keep trying to seep in. Your own fear will keep trying to pull you back toward the familiar. But each time you catch yourself believing a limiting story about yourself, you get to choose again. You get to ask, is this actually true? Or is this just a story I learned to believe to stay safe? The potential that is hidden inside you is not really hidden at all. It is just waiting for you to look at it. It is just waiting for you to decide that you are worth the investment of time and energy it takes to develop it. It is waiting for you to believe that you deserve to live at your full capacity. And right now, in this moment, you have the opportunity to make that decision. You can choose to recognize the truth about yourself. You can choose to acknowledge your genuine strengths and your actual capacity for growth. You can choose to stop accepting the limited version of yourself that fear has tried to sell you. This choice will change everything. Your life will look different. The way you see yourself will feel different. And most importantly, the way you show up in the world will be different. You will step into your power. You will begin to live like someone who knows what they are truly capable of. And that is where real transformation begins. Chapter 2. Transform negative thinking into powerful beliefs that support you. Your mind is running a program that was written long before you had any say in the matter. Every time you face a challenge, your brain automatically generates a thought. Every time something goes wrong, a narrative appears without you consciously creating it. Every time you consider taking action towards something you want, a voice whispers reasons why you might fail. These automatic thoughts feel like truth. They feel like facts about reality, but they are not. They are predictions based on outdated programming, and they are killing your potential. The gap between who you are and who you could become is not a gap of talent or opportunity or luck. It is a gap of belief. Your beliefs are the lens through which you interpret every experience. They determine what you notice, what you ignore, what you try, and what you give up on before you even start. A person with poor self-belief will look at the same opportunity as someone with strong self-belief and see something completely different. One sees danger and reasons to avoid. The other sees possibility and reasons to engage. The only difference between them is internal. The only difference is what they believe about themselves. Negative thinking is not a character flaw. It is not a sign of weakness or stupidity. It is a protective mechanism that your brain developed when you needed protection. At some point in your life, believing negative things about yourself kept you safe. It lowered your expectations so disappointment would not hurt as much. It kept you from taking risks that might have resulted in public embarrassment or rejection. It gave you reasons not to try, and not trying meant you could not fail. Your mind was doing what it thought was best for you. The problem is that this protection is now your prison. The thoughts that protected you as a child are suffocating you as an adult. The voice that whispered warnings to keep you small is now your primary advisor. The beliefs that prevented pain in the past are now preventing progress in the present. And because these thoughts have been running so long, they feel normal. They feel like the truth of who you are, rather than a habit of thinking that you adopted decades ago. This is why transformation requires deliberate action. You cannot simply think your way out of negative thinking patterns. You have to rewire them. Understanding how negative thoughts become automatic is the first step toward changing them. Your brain is an efficiency machine. It runs on patterns because patterns are efficient. When you walk into your house, you do not think through each step. Your brain recognizes the familiar environment, and your body knows what to do. When you drive to work, you are often lost in thought, and yet your body successfully navigates the route because your brain has recorded the pattern. This efficiency is helpful for routine tasks. It becomes problematic when the pattern is a negative thought spiral. A negative thought pattern is basically a groove in your brain that has been carved deeper by repetition. Every time you think the same negative thought, you strengthen that neural pathway. Every time you believe the negative thought and act according to it, you reinforce it further. Over time, this groove becomes so deep that your thoughts naturally follow it. You do not have to consciously decide to think negatively. Your brain just does it automatically. This is why people who struggle with negative thinking often feel like they have no control over their thoughts. The pattern has become so automatic that it feels like reality rather than something they are choosing. The transformation from negative thinking to powerful beliefs requires that you first become aware of the patterns. You cannot change what you do not notice. Most people are completely unconscious of their thought patterns. They are so automatic that they happen in the background of awareness. Someone makes a critical comment, and you immediately think that everyone agrees with the criticism. Someone does not respond to a message, and you immediately assume they are upset with you. You make a small mistake, and you immediately think that you are incompetent. These thoughts happen so fast that they feel instantaneous, like facts rather than interpretations. The practice of becoming aware starts with simple observation. For the next week, pay attention to your inner dialogue without judgment. Just notice, when something does not go as planned, what do you tell yourself? When you face a challenge, what narrative appears? When you think about pursuing something you want, what doubts show up? Write these thoughts down. Get them out of your head and onto paper or into your phone. The moment you externalize them, they lose some of their power. When they are only in your head, they feel like the truth. When you see them written out, you can begin to examine them. You will likely notice that your negative thoughts fall into categories. Some are catastrophic thoughts, where you immediately jump to the worst possible outcome. Someone gives you constructive feedback, and you think that you are about to be fired. You feel chest pain, and you immediately think that you are having a heart attack. Your partner seems quiet, and you think that the relationship is ending. This tendency to catastrophize is more common than you might think. Your brain is wired to anticipate danger, and catastrophic thinking is an extreme expression of this protective instinct. Other negative thoughts are generalizations, where you take one specific failure and turn it into a permanent character trait. You flub a presentation and decide that you are bad at public speaking. You have a conflict with a friend and decide that you are not good at relationships. You make a poor financial decision and decide that you will never have money. One event becomes evidence of a permanent identity. This is how limiting beliefs get installed. One experience, repeated in your mind multiple times, becomes the story of who you are. Some negative thoughts are mind reading, where you assume you know what other people are thinking about you. She did not laugh at your joke, so she thinks you are not funny. He did not compliment your work, so he thinks you did a bad job. They did not invite you to the event, so they do not like you. You have no actual evidence of what they are thinking, but you have invented a narrative and treated it like fact. And then you behave according to this false narrative, which often creates the very rejection you feared. Once you start noticing your negative thought patterns, the next step is to question them. This is where most people fail. They notice their negative thoughts and then just accept them as true. But a thought is not a fact simply because it has appeared in your mind. A thought is a hypothesis. It is a prediction. It is an interpretation. And interpretations can be wrong. Every negative thought you have should be met with a simple question. Is this actually true? What is the evidence? Could there be another explanation? When you catch yourself thinking that you are incompetent because you made a mistake, ask yourself, does making one mistake mean that I am incompetent? Have I succeeded at things before? Do most people make mistakes? What would I tell a friend who made the same mistake? This process of questioning is not about positive thinking or pretending everything is fine. It is about accuracy. It is about replacing distorted thinking with more realistic thinking. The difference between distorted thinking and realistic thinking is important to understand. Distorted thinking is black and white. You are either a complete success or a complete failure. Realistic thinking is nuanced. You succeeded at some things and struggled with others. Distorted thinking treats one event as permanent and unchangeable. You failed once, so you will always fail. Realistic thinking treats one event as information. You failed once, so you learn something that will help you do better next time. Distorted thinking ignores evidence that contradicts the negative belief. Realistic thinking takes all evidence into account. Here is a powerful practice that will help you transform your negative thoughts into more realistic and empowering thoughts. When you catch a negative thought, write it down exactly as you think it. Then ask yourself 4 questions. First, is this thought 100% true? What evidence contradicts it? Second, what would I tell a good friend who had this thought? Would I agree with them, or would I challenge their thinking? Third, what is the worst that could happen if this negative thought is true? And more importantly, could I handle it? Have I handled difficult things before? Fourth, what is the best that could happen if I do not believe this negative thought? What becomes possible? This process takes the automatic negative thought and transforms it into a conscious examination. You move from being run by your thoughts to being the observer of your thoughts. You begin to see that you have a choice about what to believe. Just because a thought appears does not mean that you have to accept it as truth. Just because your mind generated a prediction does not mean that the prediction is accurate. This shift in perspective is transformative. Now comes the crucial part. Once you have questioned the negative thought and created a more realistic perspective, you need to install a new belief in its place. You cannot simply remove a negative belief. You have to replace it with something else, or your mind will just revert to the old pattern. This is why positive affirmations often do not work for people. If you have spent decades believing that you are not capable, and then you suddenly tell yourself that you are capable, your mind rebels. The new belief does not feel true because it contradicts so much of your experience and reinforced thinking. The solution is to install beliefs that are one step more believable than your current belief, but are still more empowering than the negative thought. If you believe that you are a failure at everything, the new belief is not that you are a complete success at everything. That is too big a jump. The new belief might be that you have succeeded at some things and you are capable of learning. If you believe that nobody likes you, the new belief is not that everyone loves you. The new belief might be that some people value your presence and you are worth knowing. These incremental belief shifts are more sustainable because they do not trigger as much internal resistance. The way you install new beliefs is through repetition and evidence gathering. You tell yourself the new belief intentionally and repeatedly until it starts to feel more normal. But more importantly, you actively look for evidence that supports the new belief. If you are trying to believe that you are capable of learning, you start keeping track of things you have learned. If you are trying to believe that you are worthy of good things, you start noticing the good things that come your way and consciously recognizing them as evidence. Your brain will fight this at first because it is comfortable with the old patterns, but if you persist, the new belief gradually becomes more real. This is not about self-deception or denial. This is about redirecting your attention toward what is actually true about you, rather than what your scared mind has fixated on. Your brain is not randomly generating negative thoughts. It is generating thoughts that match your dominant beliefs. If you change your dominant beliefs, your automatic thoughts will change as well. The voice in your head will become kinder. The predictions will become more realistic. The narratives will become more empowering. One of the most powerful things you can do is to separate yourself from your negative thoughts by recognizing them as thought patterns rather than as you. Instead of thinking that you are anxious, notice that you are having anxious thoughts. Instead of believing that you are lazy, notice that you are having thoughts about laziness. This distinction matters because it creates space between you and the thought. You are not the thought. You are the awareness of the thought. You are the one who gets to decide whether to believe it or not. Your transformation from negative thinking to powerful beliefs does not happen because you achieve something external. It happens because you change your internal dialogue. It happens because you stop automatically accepting every thought your brain generates as truth. It happens because you deliberately practice questioning distorted thinking and replacing it with more realistic, more empowering perspectives. This is daily work. This is something you will need to do consistently because your brain will keep trying to revert to old patterns. But each time you catch a negative thought and handle it differently, you are rewiring yourself. Each time you build evidence for a new belief, you are strengthening a new pathway, and over time, your entire life shifts because your thoughts have shifted. The opportunities you see change. The risks you are willing to take change. The version of yourself that you are willing to be changes. This is how powerful belief transformation actually works. Chapter 3. Master human behavior and build stronger relationships with everyone. Every interaction you have is an opportunity to understand something fundamental about human nature. People are not mysteries to be solved or puzzles to be figured out. They are operating systems running specific programs based on their history, their wounds, their dreams, and their fears. When you learn to read these invisible layers, when you understand what is actually driving someone's behavior, everything changes. The person who snaps at you is not angry at you. They are overwhelmed and scared. The colleague who takes credit for your work is not trying to destroy you. They are desperate to feel competent and valuable. The friend who cancels plans repeatedly is not rejecting you. They are struggling with something they have not told you about. Mastering human behavior means learning to see past the surface action to the need that is driving it. Most people navigate relationships from a place of assumption. Someone does something that hurts you and you assume they intended to hurt you. Someone does not respond to your message and you assume they do not care about you. Someone criticizes your work and you assume they think you are incompetent. These assumptions are almost always wrong. They are projections of your own insecurities onto the other person's behavior, but because they feel true in the moment, you react based on them. You become defensive or withdrawn or angry. Your response is based on fiction, not fact. This is where relationships break down. The first principle of mastering human behavior is understanding that all behavior is communication. Every single thing a person does is communicating something about their internal state. Silence is communication. Irritability is communication. Withdrawal is communication. Over-explaining is communication. People are constantly broadcasting their emotional state, their needs, their fears, and their desires through their behavior, but most of us have never learned to read this broadcast. We take things personally when they have nothing to do with us. We miss opportunities to connect because we are too focused on defending ourselves. Consider the person who becomes defensive when you offer feedback. Your instinct might be to interpret this defensiveness as arrogance or closed-mindedness. But what if the defensiveness is actually revealing that this person has deep doubts about their own competence? What if the defensiveness is a wall they have built because feedback feels threatening to their sense of self? If you understand this, your approach changes completely. You do not push harder with your feedback. You create safety first. You acknowledge what they have done well. You frame the feedback as collaboration rather than criticism. You are no longer fighting against their defensiveness. You are addressing the fear underneath it. This is what it means to master human behavior. It means developing the capacity to see past the surface reaction to the underlying emotion or need. It means understanding that every person is doing the best they can with the resources and understanding they currently have. It means recognizing that hurt people and that people who feel valued and understood show up differently in relationships. The second principle is that people operate from 4 core emotional needs. Everyone wants to feel safe. Everyone wants to feel valued. Everyone wants to feel understood. And everyone wants to feel like they have some control over their life. When one or more of these needs is not being met, people's behavior becomes problematic. Someone becomes controlling because they do not feel safe. Someone becomes aggressive because they do not feel valued. Someone becomes withdrawn because they do not feel understood. Someone becomes rigid because they do not feel like they have any control. Understanding which need is not being met changes how you respond. When you know that someone's controlling behavior is rooted in a need for safety, you do not argue with them about their control. You work on helping them feel safer. You become more consistent and reliable. You follow through on commitments. You validate their concerns, even if you think they are overblowing things. You are not enabling the behavior. You are addressing the root cause of the behavior. When the person feels safer, the controlling behavior naturally decreases because it is no longer serving a purpose. The third principle is developing genuine curiosity about other people. Most conversations are not actually conversations. They are 2 people waiting for their turn to talk. They are 2 people thinking about what they want to say next, instead of actually listening to what the other person is saying. True connection happens when you become genuinely interested in understanding another person, not to get something from them or to convince them of something, just to understand them. What shaped them? What do they care about? What are they afraid of? What do they want from life? When you ask these questions from genuine curiosity rather than from an agenda, people feel it. They relax. They open up. They share things they do not normally share. This is not manipulation. This is not a technique to get people to like you. This is genuine human connection, and genuine human connection is the foundation for every strong relationship. The person who feels truly known and truly listened to will follow you anywhere. They will support your goals. They will show up for you in difficult times. They will give you the benefit of the doubt when miscommunications happen. They will work through conflict with you instead of walking away. Because being truly known and truly listened to is one of the deepest human needs. The fourth principle is understanding attachment styles. Every person has learned a particular way of relating to others based on their early relationships. Some people have a secure attachment style where they feel comfortable being vulnerable and trusting. Some people have an anxious attachment style where they constantly worry about abandonment and need reassurance. Some people have an avoidant attachment style where they fear intimacy and independence matters more than connection. Some people have a disorganized attachment style where they lack a consistent way of relating. Understanding your own attachment style and the attachment styles of people in your life explains so much about why relationships work or do not work. If you have an anxious attachment style and your partner has an avoidant attachment style, conflict is almost guaranteed unless you both understand what is happening. Your partner pulls away and you interpret it as rejection, so you pursue harder. The harder you pursue, the more your partner pulls away. You become more anxious, they become more avoidant. This dynamic can destroy a relationship if both people are not aware of it. But if you both understand that your partner is not rejecting you and that pursuing them makes them feel suffocated, you can change the dynamic. You can learn new ways of communicating that work with both of your styles instead of against them. The fifth principle is understanding that people filter information through their own worldview. Two people can experience the same event and come away with completely different interpretations. One person sees a cancelled meeting as a sign that they are not valued. Another person sees it as a sign that the other person is busy. One person sees someone arriving late as disrespect. Another person sees it as traffic or miscommunication about the time. None of these interpretations is objectively true. They are all interpretations filtered through the person's beliefs, past experiences, and current emotional state. When you understand this, you stop taking things so personally. You recognize that the other person's interpretation says more about them than it says about you. The sixth principle is learning to communicate your needs directly instead of expecting people to read your mind. So many relationship conflicts exist because people are frustrated that others are not meeting needs that they have never actually expressed. You expect your partner to know what you need without telling them. You expect your friend to understand what hurt you without explaining. You expect your colleague to respect a boundary you have never set, and when they do not meet these unexpressed needs, you blame them for not caring. But the real problem is that you have not done the work of communicating clearly. People are not mind readers. They cannot know what you need unless you tell them, and telling them means being specific and vulnerable. It means saying, "I need you to check in with me more frequently because I feel disconnected from you." It means saying, "I feel hurt when you do not acknowledge my accomplishments because I need recognition to feel valued." It means saying, "I need you to respect this boundary because it protects my emotional well-being." Most people will actually step up when you make your needs clear. They want to meet your needs. They just cannot do it if they do not know what the needs are. The seventh principle is understanding projection and how your past gets in the way of your present relationships. Everyone has people in their past who did things to them. Parents who were critical or absent or controlling, friends who betrayed them, partners who hurt them, teachers who made them feel stupid. These experiences leave marks. They create sensitivities. And then, in your current relationships, you project these sensitivities onto people who did not create them. Your partner does something that reminds you of something your parent did, and you react as if your partner is your parent. You have a conflict with a friend, and you assume they will abandon you like someone abandoned you before. You get feedback from your boss, and you hear criticism like a parent criticized you years ago. None of this is about the present situation. It is about the past bleeding into the present. Understanding your projections requires honest self-examination. When you have a strong emotional reaction to something someone did, pause and ask yourself whether this reaction is proportional to what actually happened. Often it is not. Often you are reacting to a ghost from your past. Once you recognize this, you can separate the past from the present. You can tell yourself that this person is not that person. This situation is not that situation. I am safe now. I can respond to what is actually happening instead of what I fear is happening. The eighth principle is developing empathy without losing yourself. Empathy means understanding and feeling what another person is experiencing. But many people confuse empathy with taking on the other person's emotions as your own. You become responsible for managing their feelings. You become afraid to disappoint them or upset them. You compromise your own needs and boundaries to keep them happy. This is not empathy. This is enmeshment. True empathy means you understand what someone is feeling and you care about their experience while still maintaining your own emotional boundaries and your own sense of self. You can empathize with someone's fear of abandonment without staying in a relationship that is unhealthy for you. You can understand someone's need to be right without accepting their criticism as truth. You can recognize someone's pain without taking responsibility for fixing it. Healthy relationships are built on this kind of boundaried empathy. One person does not disappear into the other person's needs. Both people maintain themselves while also genuinely caring about the other person's well-being. The ninth principle is recognizing that conflict is not a sign that a relationship is failing. Conflict is a sign that the relationship matters enough that you are willing to work through difficulty. Relationships without conflict are often relationships where one person has given up or where people are simply avoiding each other. The couples who stay together are not the ones who never fight. They are the ones who fight fairly, who listen to understand instead of to win, who take responsibility for their part, and who are willing to repair when things break. Mastering human behavior means learning to navigate conflict in a way that actually brings you closer instead of pushing you apart. The 10th principle is understanding that people change when they feel accepted as they are, not when they are criticized for who they are not. If you want someone to change, start by accepting them as they currently are. Paradoxically, people become more willing to grow and change when they do not feel judged or rejected. They defend themselves less. They become more open to feedback. They become more willing to take risks and try new things. This applies to parenting, to romantic relationships, to friendships, and to work relationships. Accepting people as they are, while still maintaining your boundaries and your values, is how you create the conditions for growth. The real skill of mastering human behavior is learning to see people as they actually are, rather than as you need them to be or fear them to be. It is learning to respond to what is actually happening, rather than to your interpretation of what is happening. It is learning to communicate your truth while also honoring the truth of others. It is learning to have empathy without losing yourself. It is learning to set boundaries that protect you while staying open to connection. When you develop these capacities, every relationship improves. The people around you feel more understood, more valued, and more safe, and when people feel that way, they bring their best selves to the relationship. They show up more authentically, they give more generously, they support you more fully. This is how you build relationships that actually matter, with people who genuinely care about you. Chapter 4. Build unbreakable habits that fix your daily life today. Your life is not determined by the big decisions you make once in a while. Your life is determined by the small decisions you make every single day. The decision to wake up early or sleep in. The decision to exercise or stay sedentary. The decision to eat nourishing food or grab fast food. The decision to read or scroll mindlessly. The decision to have meaningful conversations or isolate yourself. These tiny choices compound over time into a life that either works or does not work. The person who seems to have everything figured out is not smarter than you. They are not more disciplined than you in some innate sense. They have simply built habits that support their goals, while you have built habits that work against yours. Habits are the invisible architecture of your life. They are the automated systems that run in the background, determining outcomes without requiring conscious effort. When your habits are good, your life improves effortlessly. You do not have to think about exercising or eating well or being productive, because these things have become automatic. When your habits are bad, your life deteriorates without you having to do anything wrong. You do not have to consciously choose failure. Your bad habits will deliver it automatically. Understanding this is the first step toward building an unbreakable life. The reason most people fail at building new habits is that they approach habits as purely willpower problems. They decide to change, and they expect themselves to white-knuckle their way through until the new behavior sticks. This almost never works. Willpower is a finite resource. It runs out. And when it runs out, you revert to your old patterns because those patterns are still the easiest path for your brain. The successful approach is to understand that habits are not willpower problems, they are design problems. You need to design your environment and your systems in a way that makes the desired behavior automatic and the undesired behavior difficult. Here is how habits actually work in your brain. Your brain is constantly scanning for patterns and shortcuts. When you repeat a behavior in the same context, your brain starts to encode it. The context triggers the behavior automatically. You wake up and immediately reach for your phone, not because you consciously decided to check your phone, but because your brain has learned that waking up plus bed equals phone. You pass the cookie jar and reach for a cookie, not because you consciously decided to eat a cookie, but because your brain has learned that afternoon plus kitchen equals cookie. These automatic responses are called habits. They are neurologically encoded patterns that your brain runs without your conscious input. The good news is that if your brain can encode bad habits, it can encode good habits. And good habits have the same structure as bad habits. They have a trigger, a behavior, and a reward. The trigger is the context or the time or the preceding event that activates the behavior. The behavior is the action you take. The reward is the payoff that makes your brain want to repeat the sequence. Understanding this structure is how you build unbreakable habits. Start by identifying the triggers for the habits you want to build. If you want to build an exercise habit, what will trigger it? It could be a specific time, like early morning. It could be a location, like the gym or your living room. It could be a preceding event, like finishing your first coffee or putting on workout clothes. The more specific and consistent you can make the trigger, the more powerful it becomes. Your brain learns the pattern faster when the trigger is always the same. This is why people who exercise at the same time every day are more likely to stick with it than people who exercise at random times. Next, you need to attach the new habit to something that already happens automatically. This is called habit stacking. If you already have a strong morning routine where you brush your teeth and drink coffee, you can stack your new habit onto this existing routine. You drink coffee and then immediately do 10 minutes of meditation. You brush your teeth and then immediately do a few push-ups. You eat breakfast and then immediately write 3 things you are grateful for. By attaching the new habit to an existing automatic behavior, you leverage the existing neural pathway. Your brain already knows how to do the trigger automatically. You are just extending the sequence. The reward is crucial because it is what tells your brain to repeat this sequence again tomorrow. If the reward is not strong enough, your brain will not bother encoding the habit. This is why relying on distant rewards does not work. I will exercise today so that in 6 months I will look different. That reward is too far away. Your brain does not care. You need an immediate reward that makes your brain say, "Yes, let us do that again tomorrow." The reward does not have to be big. It can be the feeling of satisfaction from completing the task. It can be a favorite snack after you work out. It can be checking it off a list and seeing progress accumulate. It can be telling a friend that you did it and receiving acknowledgement. The reward has to be something that feels good to you right now, not something that sounds good in theory. This is where most people sabotage themselves. They build a habit that feels like punishment. They decide to exercise, and they choose an exercise they hate. They decide to eat healthy, and they eliminate every food they enjoy. They decide to wake up early, and they set the alarm for an unreasonably early time. They are basically training themselves to fail by making the habit association negative. Their brain learns that this behavior leads to suffering, so their brain avoids it. Instead, you need to make the desired behavior as easy and as pleasurable as possible. Building an unbreakable habit also requires removing friction from the behaviors you want and adding friction to the behaviors you do not want. If you want to drink more water, keep a water bottle where you can see it. If you want to exercise, lay out your workout clothes the night before. If you want to read more, keep a book on your nightstand. If you want to journal, keep your journal and pen in a visible place. The easier you make it to do the thing, the more likely you are to do it. Conversely, if you want to reduce phone usage, do not keep your phone in your bedroom. If you want to reduce junk food, do not keep junk food in your house. If you want to watch less television, unplug the television or put the remote somewhere inconvenient. The environment shapes behavior far more than willpower does. You can have the strongest willpower in the world, but if your environment is set up to trigger unwanted behaviors, you will struggle. Change your environment first, and the behavior will follow. Make it so that the desired behavior is the path of least resistance. Make it so that choosing the good habit requires no decision-making or willpower. This is how you build something truly unbreakable. Another critical element is tracking your habits. You cannot change what you do not measure. The simple act of tracking a habit significantly increases the likelihood that you will maintain it. You do not need anything fancy. You can use a calendar and put an X on every day that you complete the habit. You can use an app. You can keep a simple list. The mechanism does not matter. What matters is that you are creating a visual record of your consistency. Your brain responds to this. Seeing a chain of successful days builds momentum. Breaking the chain feels wrong. This is why many people find the 2-day rule helpful. If you miss one day, try not to miss the next day. One missed day is a slip. 2 missed days is the beginning of a new habit. By maintaining the chain as much as possible, you maintain the momentum. Accountability is also powerful, not because you should feel shame if you fail, but because external accountability creates extra motivation. If you tell a friend that you are committing to a habit and that you will report your progress to them, you are more likely to follow through. If you join a group of people working on the same habit, you are more likely to persist. Humans are social creatures. We care what others think. We care about not letting people down. We care about being part of a community working toward something. Leverage this. Find a friend or a group or a community who is working on similar habits and share your commitment and your progress. Building unbreakable habits also requires patience. The timeline for a habit to become truly automatic is longer than most people think. Research suggests that it takes anywhere from 30 to 300 days, depending on the complexity of the habit and the person. Simple habits like drinking a glass of water in the morning might solidify in 30 days. Complex habits like exercising for an hour every day might take several months, but the timeline does not matter. What matters is that you keep going. Every repetition is rewiring your brain. Every completion of the sequence is making the neural pathway stronger. Every day that you do it, it becomes slightly more automatic. One of the most underrated aspects of habit building is starting with something small enough that you cannot fail. Many people want to transform their entire life overnight. They decide to exercise an hour every day, eat perfectly, wake up at 5 in the morning, meditate for 30 minutes, and journal. They are trying to build 5 major habits simultaneously. Of course they fail. Instead, build one habit at a time and start with the smallest version of that habit that seems almost trivial. You do not want to start with an hour of exercise. Start with a 5-minute walk. You do not want to start with perfect eating. Start with adding 1 vegetable to your lunch. You do not want to start with an hour of meditation. Start with 3 minutes. Start so small that the only barrier to success is actually doing it. Once the small habit becomes automatic, you can increase it. Once a 5-minute walk is automatic, extend it to 10 minutes. Once adding 1 vegetable is automatic, add 2. Once 3 minutes of meditation is automatic, extend it to 5 or 10. This incremental approach works because it builds momentum. You experience success. Your brain learns that you follow through. Your confidence in your ability to build habits increases, and then, when you add the next layer, you are building on a foundation of success rather than trying to build everything from scratch. The habits that most directly impact your life are the keystone habits. These are habits that trigger a cascade of other positive behaviors. For example, exercise is often a keystone habit. People who start exercising frequently start eating better, sleeping better, and managing stress better without consciously deciding to do these things. They just happen as a result of the exercise habit. Similarly, meditation or journaling can be keystone habits that improve your mental clarity and decision-making in ways that ripple through your entire life. Identify the habits that will have the biggest positive impact on your life and build those first. Also recognize that your habits need to evolve as you evolve. A habit that serves you at one stage of life might not serve you at another stage. The habit of staying up late might have worked when you were in school. As an adult with responsibilities, it probably does not serve you anymore. The habit of people-pleasing might have kept you safe in a difficult family. In adult relationships, it probably undermines your well-being. Give yourself permission to let go of habits that no longer serve you. Building unbreakable habits does not mean being rigid. It means being intentional about which behaviors serve your current goals and values. Finally, understand that habit building is not about perfection. You will miss days. You will slip into old patterns sometimes. This is normal and expected. What matters is what you do next. Do you use one slip as an excuse to abandon the habit entirely, or do you acknowledge the slip and get right back to the habit the next day? The people who successfully build unbreakable habits are not the people who never mess up. They are the people who mess up and then immediately return to the habit. They have developed resilience around their habit practice. Building unbreakable habits is how you take control of your life. It is how you stop being a passenger in your own existence and become the pilot. When your daily habits support your goals and your values, your life naturally improves. You do not have to rely on motivation or willpower or discipline. You have built systems that work automatically, that carry you toward your goals even on days when you do not feel like it. This is the secret that successful people know. It is not that they are smarter or more talented or more disciplined. They have simply built better habits, and now you have the knowledge to do the same. Chapter 5. Break the cycles that keep you stuck and trapped. There is a pattern that runs through human life like a river that keeps returning to the same place no matter how many times you try to escape it. You find yourself in the same type of relationship with different people. You chase the same goals only to feel empty when you achieve them. You make the same mistakes despite swearing that this time will be different. You repeat the same arguments with the same people, using the same words that never resolve anything. You know what the problem is, and you know what you should do differently, and yet you find yourself doing the exact same thing again. This is what it means to be stuck in a cycle. And until you understand the mechanism that keeps the cycle running, no amount of willpower or motivation will set you free. Cycles are not random. They are not accidents or bad luck or proof that you are broken. Cycles exist because they are serving a purpose. At some point in your life, the cycle was the best solution available to you, given the resources and understanding you had. The pattern of choosing unavailable partners protected you from intimacy that felt too dangerous. The pattern of overworking protected you from the shame of not being good enough. The pattern of blaming others protected you from the crushing weight of responsibility. The pattern of isolating yourself protected you from being hurt again. These patterns were adaptive. They were survival mechanisms. The problem is that they are still running even though you no longer need them. You have grown, but your patterns have not. And now these once protective mechanisms are what keep you trapped. Understanding the anatomy of a cycle is the first step toward breaking it. Every cycle has a trigger. This is the event or the situation, or even the emotion that activates the pattern. Something happens that reminds you of an old hurt, or that triggers an old fear. Your partner does something that reminds you of abandonment. Your boss gives you feedback that triggers shame about not being good enough. A social situation activates your anxiety about being judged. This trigger is often so fast that you do not even notice it. You just feel the activation, and then the cycle begins. Once the trigger activates, a thought pattern emerges. This thought pattern is usually automatic and distorted. You catastrophize or personalize, or mind read, or generalize. Your partner is late, and you think that they do not care about you, and that the relationship is failing. Your boss gives feedback, and you think that you are incompetent, and that you will be fired. Someone does not respond to your message, and you think that you have done something wrong, and that everyone is upset with you. These thoughts feel true because they are generated by your brain. They are not actually true, but your brain treats them as if they are. The thought pattern then triggers an emotional response: fear, or anger, or shame, or anxiety. This emotional response is intense and overwhelming. It hijacks your nervous system. Your body goes into fight or flight mode. Your thinking becomes clouded. Your usual coping mechanisms disappear. You are operating from a place of survival rather than from your higher reasoning. This is the most vulnerable moment in the cycle, because your decisions at this point will determine whether you escape the cycle or deepen it. In this heightened emotional state, you take action, and this action is almost always the same action you have taken 100 times before. If the cycle is self-sabotage, you unconsciously do something that undermines your own success. If the cycle is relationship conflict, you say something harsh, or withdraw, or accuse. If the cycle is avoidance, you distract yourself, or numb yourself, or run away. If the cycle is rumination, you obsess over the problem, or replay conversations, or torment yourself with what-ifs. The action is automatic, because you have practiced this particular response pattern countless times. Your brain knows the way, even if you do not like where it leads. After the action comes the consequence, and this consequence is usually painful. You sabotage yourself and then feel disappointed in yourself. You say something harsh in a conflict and then feel guilty and ashamed. You numb yourself with distractions and then feel more empty than before. You ruminate and then feel more anxious than before. The consequence reinforces the cycle because it validates the original fearful thought. You thought you were not good enough, and now you have proof. You thought the relationship was doomed, and now you have evidence. You thought you would mess it up, and now you have. The cycle completes, and then it waits for the next trigger to start all over again. Breaking a cycle requires interrupting this sequence at some point. The easiest place to interrupt is at the trigger, because that is where awareness first emerges. If you can notice the trigger before the cascade of thoughts and emotions takes over, you have a chance to choose differently. This requires developing awareness of your triggers. What situations activate you? What types of comments set you off? What emotions come up most frequently? What do these triggers have in common? Often, your triggers are related to your core wounds. If you have a core wound around abandonment, any hint of rejection will trigger you. If you have a core wound around being controlled, any hint of someone telling you what to do will trigger you. If you have a core wound around not being good enough, any hint of criticism will trigger you. Once you understand your triggers, you can create distance between the trigger and your automatic response. You create space for choice. When you notice the trigger, pause, take a breath, notice what you are feeling, notice what you are thinking, But do not act on the impulse yet. Give your prefrontal cortex a chance to engage. Give your higher reasoning a chance to override your automatic response. This pause is powerful because it breaks the automaticity of the cycle. You are no longer running the pattern unconsciously. You are conscious, and consciousness is where freedom lives. Another place to interrupt the cycle is in the thought pattern. Once you notice what you are thinking, you can examine it like you learned in Chapter 2. Is this thought actually true, or is it a distortion? What evidence contradicts this thought? What would I tell a friend who was thinking this? By questioning the distorted thought, you prevent it from triggering the full emotional cascade. If you can correct the thought before the emotion becomes overwhelming, you can stay in your executive functioning. You can make choices rather than react automatically. The most powerful place to interrupt the cycle is in the action. Even if the trigger has been activated and the emotions are high, you can still choose to do something different than you have done before. This is where real change happens. This is where you prove to yourself that the cycle is not inevitable. The first time you feel triggered and you do not say the harsh thing, something shifts. The first time you feel the urge to sabotage yourself and you do not do it, something changes in your brain. The first time you feel the impulse to run away and you stay and face the difficulty, you start rewiring your response pattern. The key to choosing differently in the moment of activation is having a plan ahead of time. When you are in the heat of the moment and your emotions are high, you cannot think clearly. You cannot come up with a good response. You can only run your automatic pattern. But if you have already decided ahead of time how you want to respond to your trigger, you have a script to follow. You have a pre-planned action that is not your old default response. For someone who tends to lash out when triggered, the pre-planned response might be to take a walk and process alone. For someone who tends to withdraw, the pre-planned response might be to say, "I am feeling activated right now, and I need a few minutes, but I will come back, and we will talk about this." For someone who tends to catastrophize, the pre-planned response might be to write down what you are thinking, and then write down more realistic alternatives. Understanding the function of your cycle is also important. What is the cycle doing for you? What need is it meeting? If the cycle is overworking, maybe it is meeting your need to feel valuable or to avoid intimacy or to numb your emotions. If the cycle is relationship conflict, maybe it is meeting your need to feel heard or to assert your power or to test whether the person really cares about you. If the cycle is procrastination, maybe it is meeting your need to avoid shame or to maintain a sense of control or to protect yourself from failure. Once you understand what need the cycle is meeting, you can find a different way to meet that need, a healthier way, a way that does not come with the painful consequences of the cycle. Many cycles are maintained by secondary gains. These are the hidden benefits of staying in the cycle. If you maintain the identity of the victim, you do not have to take responsibility for your life. If you maintain the identity of the martyr, you get sympathy and care from others. If you maintain the identity of the person who always fails, you do not have to risk failing at something new. If you maintain the identity of the person who cannot change, you do not have to do the difficult work of changing. These secondary gains are often unconscious. You are not deliberately choosing them, but they are real and they are powerful. Breaking a cycle often requires you to give up these secondary gains. It requires you to step into responsibility and to risk not getting the sympathy or the attention or the excuse that the identity provided. Also critical is recognizing that breaking a cycle is not a linear process. You will break the cycle and then you will find yourself back in it again. This does not mean you failed. This means you are human. The neural pathway of the old cycle is still there. It is still strong. Breaking a cycle means you are gradually weakening the old pathway and strengthening a new pathway. It means that each time you interrupt the cycle, you are making progress even if you do not feel like it. Each time you choose differently, you are rewiring your brain. Each time you break the pattern even partially, you are moving in the direction of freedom. Compassion for yourself through this process is essential. Many people break a cycle and then immediately spiral into shame when they find themselves in the cycle again. They tell themselves that they should be better by now. They tell themselves that they are failing. They use the slip as evidence that they cannot change. But this is just another cycle. The original cycle plus a shame cycle on top of it. The antidote is to recognize that breaking cycles is messy and non-linear, and that you are doing better than you think you are. The fact that you are even aware of the cycle means you have already changed. The awareness itself is change. The awareness is the first step toward freedom. Also understand that some cycles are maintained by your environment or your relationships. If you are in a relationship where someone keeps triggering your cycle on purpose, or where the dynamic constantly activates your old patterns, you will struggle to break the cycle while staying in that relationship. Sometimes breaking a cycle requires changing your environment or changing the people around you. Sometimes it requires setting boundaries or ending relationships that do not serve your growth. This can feel scary. It can feel lonely. But staying in an environment that constantly activates your cycle is choosing slow suffering over the temporary discomfort of change. Building new neural pathways takes time and repetition. You cannot think your way out of a cycle. You have to act your way out of it. You have to repeatedly choose the new response until it becomes as automatic as the old response. This is why consistency matters more than intensity. Showing up to interrupt the cycle a little bit every single day is more powerful than trying to make a huge change once in a while. The compounding effect of small, consistent choices is what eventually rewires you. Breaking a cycle also requires that you address the wound that created the cycle in the first place. Cycles are not random, they emerge from unhealed pain. If you have abandonment wounds, you will keep creating situations where people leave you. If you have shame wounds, you will keep creating situations where you are criticized or exposed. If you have powerlessness wounds, you will keep creating situations where you feel controlled or helpless. Until you address these underlying wounds, the cycle will keep finding new expressions. The people might change, but the pattern will remain. Healing the wound might require therapy or energy work or spiritual practice or all of these things, but it is necessary if you want to truly break the cycle rather than just suppress it temporarily. Finally, recognize that breaking cycles is one of the most powerful things you can do for your life. Every cycle you break opens up new possibilities. Every pattern you interrupt creates space for something new to emerge. Every old response you replace with a conscious choice is a small revolution. You are literally rewiring your brain. You are literally changing your nervous system. You are literally becoming a different person who responds to triggers differently and makes different choices and creates different outcomes. This is not easy work, but it is the most important work. Because your life will never be better than your cycles allow it to be. Break the cycles and you break free. Chapter 6. Control your emotions and handle pressure like a champion. Emotion is not your enemy. This is the first thing you need to understand. Your emotions are data. They are information your body is giving you about your current situation. Fear tells you that something matters and that you need to be careful. Anger tells you that a boundary has been crossed and that something needs to change. Sadness tells you that you have experienced loss and that you need to process and grieve. Anxiety tells you that uncertainty is present and that you need to prepare or accept what you cannot control. When you understand your emotions as messengers rather than as enemies, your relationship to them transforms completely. Most people spend their lives trying to get rid of uncomfortable emotions. They see emotions as obstacles to overcome rather than as information to listen to. When they feel anxious, they try to suppress it or distract from it. When they feel angry, they try to push it down or pretend it is not there. When they feel sad, they try to move on quickly without really feeling it. This resistance to emotion is what causes problems. The emotion does not disappear when you resist it. It just goes underground. It gets stored in your body as tension and stress. It comes out sideways in ways you do not expect. It colors your decisions from the background without you being aware of it. The emotion gets stronger the more you resist it, because your resistance is essentially telling your nervous system that this feeling is dangerous and needs to be feared. The path to controlling your emotions is counterintuitive. It is not about controlling them in the sense of suppressing them or getting rid of them. It is about understanding them and working with them. It is about creating space between the emotion and your response to the emotion. When you can feel anger without immediately lashing out, you have control. When you can feel fear without immediately running away, you have control. When you can feel sadness without immediately distracting yourself, you have control. This space between feeling and responding is where your power lives. Your nervous system has two primary operating modes. The sympathetic nervous system is your fight or flight response. When you perceive a threat, your sympathetic nervous system activates. Your heart rate increases, your breathing becomes shallow, your muscles tense, your digestion shuts down, and your thinking becomes focused on the immediate threat. This system is incredibly useful when there is an actual physical threat. Your body mobilizes to protect you. But in modern life, most threats are not physical. They are social or psychological or existential. Your boss criticizes your work, and your body responds as if you are being attacked. Someone does not respond to your text, and your body responds as if you are being abandoned. You make a mistake, and your body responds as if you are in mortal danger. Your sympathetic nervous system is activating for threats that do not require fighting or running. And because your body is in this activated state frequently, you are living in chronic stress. The other mode is the parasympathetic nervous system. This is your rest and digest response. When you feel safe, your parasympathetic nervous system activates. Your heart rate stabilizes, your breathing deepens, your muscles relax, your digestion resumes, and your thinking becomes clear and spacious. This is the state where you can think creatively and connect with others and make good decisions. This is the state where you can feel your emotions without being overwhelmed by them. Most people spend very little time in their parasympathetic nervous system. They are constantly activated, and from an activated state, everything feels urgent and threatening and requires immediate action. Controlling your emotions starts with controlling your nervous system. When your nervous system is calm, you can feel your emotions without being hijacked by them. When your nervous system is activated, even small emotions feel overwhelming. The first tool is learning to activate your parasympathetic nervous system on demand. There are several ways to do this. Deep breathing is one of the most powerful. When you breathe slowly and deeply, especially when you extend your exhale longer than your inhale, you directly signal your nervous system that you are safe. You can do box breathing, where you breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 4 counts, breathe out for 4 counts, and hold for 4 counts. You can do 4 to 7-8 breathing, where you breathe in for 4 counts, hold for 7 counts, and breathe out for 8 counts. The extended exhale is key because it directly activates your vagus nerve, which controls your parasympathetic response. Another powerful tool is progressive muscle relaxation. You tense each muscle group in your body for a few seconds and then release. Start with your feet and work your way up. Tense your toes and then release. Tense your calves and then release. Keep moving up through your entire body. This practice teaches your body what relaxation feels like. It also physically releases tension that you have been holding. Many people carry tension in their shoulders and jaw without even realizing it. By consciously tensing and releasing, you become aware of this holding pattern and you give your body permission to let it go. Movement is another powerful way to shift your nervous system state. When you are activated, your body has energy that needs to be discharged. If you try to sit still and meditate, your activated nervous system will fight you. But if you move, you give your nervous system a way to process the activation. You can go for a run, or take a walk, or do yoga, or dance, or do any movement that feels right. The movement does not have to be intense. A slow walk can be just as effective as a run, because what matters is that you are giving your body a way to process the activation and return to calm. Cold exposure is another tool. Splashing cold water on your face or taking a cold shower signals your nervous system that you need to be calm in order to survive. Your body's diving reflex activates and your heart rate actually slows down. This can feel counterintuitive because cold exposure seems like it would activate you more. But physiologically, it has a calming effect. Even just holding ice cubes in your hand or splashing cold water on your face can shift your nervous system state. Connection with others is one of the most powerful tools for regulating your nervous system. When you are in the presence of someone who is calm, your nervous system mirrors their calm. This is called co-regulation. You can feel your own anxiety decrease just by sitting with someone who is not anxious. This is why having a support system is so important. When you are activated and alone, you stay activated. When you are activated and with someone who cares about you, your nervous system has a chance to recalibrate. This is also why isolation is so dangerous when you are struggling. You stay stuck in activation. Now let us talk about working with your emotions once your nervous system is calm enough that you can access them. The practice of emotional awareness is simple but powerful. When you feel an emotion arising, pause and notice it. Where do you feel it in your body? Many people feel fear in their chest or stomach. Many people feel anger in their jaw or fists. Many people feel sadness in their throat or chest. By locating the emotion in your body, you create distance from it. You are no longer identified with it. You are observing it. You can say, I am having the experience of tightness in my chest, rather than, I am anxious. This shift in language changes everything. You become the observer rather than being the emotion. Once you have located the emotion, stay with it for a moment. Do not try to change it or fix it. Just feel it. Most people spend their entire lives running from this moment, the moment where they actually feel their feelings. But if you can sit with an emotion for even 30 seconds without trying to fix it or escape it, something remarkable happens. The emotion begins to move. It does not stay static. Emotions are energy in motion. When you stop resisting them, they flow through you. They peak, and then they subside. They transform. You discover that even the most painful emotion is bearable if you do not resist it. This is where the concept of surfing emotions becomes useful. An emotion is like a wave. When you resist it, you fight against the wave and it exhausts you. When you try to run from it, the wave catches you and crashes you. But when you learn to surf it, when you lean into it and move with it, it carries you. The wave of emotion crests and then naturally subsides. You ride it and you end up on the shore intact. This is what it means to have emotional control. You are not suppressing the emotion. You are not being controlled by the emotion. You are moving with it consciously and skillfully. Handling pressure like a champion requires understanding that pressure itself is neutral. Pressure is just circumstance. It is the meaning you assign to pressure that determines whether it overwhelms you or motivates you. Two people can face the exact same pressure, and one person becomes paralyzed by it, while the other person becomes energized by it. The difference is not in the pressure. The difference is in how they are interpreting the pressure. Champions interpret pressure as an opportunity to test themselves and to prove what they are capable of. They interpret pressure as a challenge they get to rise to. They interpret pressure as a chance to show up at their best. This reframing requires practice, but it is learnable. When you notice yourself getting overwhelmed by pressure, pause and ask yourself what this pressure means. Does it mean that something matters to you? Yes. Does it mean that you are being given the opportunity to show what you are made of? Yes. Does it mean that you are being pushed to grow? Yes. These are all positive meanings. You can choose to assign these meanings to the pressure rather than choosing to assign meanings like, I am going to fail, or I am not good enough, or this is too much. The pressure is the same. Your interpretation of the pressure is different, and your interpretation determines your response. Champions also understand that pressure creates focus. When everything is easy and comfortable, attention becomes scattered. But when pressure is present, attention becomes laser-focused. This is why so many people perform better under pressure than they do in practice. Under pressure, they cannot afford to think about 10 different things. They can only think about the one thing in front of them. They can only execute the one task at hand. This focused attention is actually an advantage. Learning to leverage this rather than resist it makes you more effective under pressure. Also important is understanding that your body language affects your emotional state. When you slouch and look down, your nervous system interprets this as a defensive posture and stays activated. When you stand tall with your shoulders back and your head up, your nervous system interprets this as a confident posture and becomes calmer. This is not just psychological, it is physiological. Your posture affects your hormone levels. Standing in a power pose for just 2 minutes increases testosterone and decreases cortisol. It actually shifts your physiology. So when you are under pressure and you notice yourself collapsing or contracting, deliberately change your posture. Stand tall, take up space. Your body will follow your posture back to a more resourced state. Your self-talk also profoundly affects how you handle pressure. The voice in your head is constantly narrating your experience. If the narration is negative, your emotions become more negative. If the narration is resourced and empowering, your emotions shift. Rather than thinking, I cannot handle this pressure, shift to, I have handled difficult things before, and I can handle this too. Rather than thinking, everyone is judging me, shift to, I am doing my best, and that is enough. Rather than thinking, this is going to go badly, shift to, I do not know what is going to happen, but I am prepared to handle whatever comes. This is not positive thinking that ignores reality. This is realistic thinking that acknowledges difficulty while also acknowledging your capacity to handle difficulty. One of the most important skills for handling pressure is knowing when to push and when to rest. Many people think that handling pressure well means pushing harder and never stopping. But this leads to burnout. Champions understand pacing. They understand that you cannot operate at maximum intensity constantly. They alternate between periods of intense effort and periods of recovery. They know that rest is not laziness. Rest is how your nervous system recovers. Rest is how your body repairs. Rest is how your mind regains clarity. By respecting the rhythm of effort and recovery, you can sustain your performance over the long term. Finally, understand that controlling your emotions and handling pressure is not about never feeling negative emotions or never being uncomfortable. It is about having choice. It is about feeling your emotions fully while still maintaining your capacity to think and act wisely. It is about experiencing pressure without being crushed by it. It is about growing under pressure rather than shrinking. This is what champions do. They feel everything, but they do not let their feelings run their lives. They experience pressure, but they do not let pressure paralyze them. They have developed the internal resources to stay resourced even when external circumstances are demanding. And now you have the tools to do the same. Chapter 7. Develop deep connections through better understanding of other people. Human beings are starving for genuine understanding. You can walk through an entire day surrounded by people and still feel completely alone because no one truly sees you. No one asks the questions that would reveal who you actually are beneath the surface. No one takes the time to understand your struggles or your dreams or what keeps you awake at night. Most interactions are transactional and superficial. People are waiting for their turn to talk instead of genuinely listening. People are thinking about what they want to say next instead of absorbing what you are actually communicating. In this landscape of disconnection, the person who genuinely understands others becomes magnetic. People are drawn to those rare individuals who make them feel truly known. Deep connection is not built through small talk or through shared activities alone. Deep connection is built when one person genuinely seeks to understand another person, not to judge them or fix them or convince them of something, just to understand them, to know what shaped them, to know what they care about, to know what they are afraid of, to know what they want from their life. When someone experiences being truly understood by another person, something shifts inside them. They relax, they open up, they share things they do not normally share. They feel less alone. This is the foundation of genuine relationship and genuine intimacy. The first step toward developing deep connections is cultivating genuine curiosity about other people. Most people are so focused on themselves that they rarely wonder what is actually going on in someone else's internal world. But curiosity is a skill that can be developed. It starts with asking yourself, what is this person actually feeling right now? What might they be struggling with that I do not see? What do I not know about them? Once you start asking these questions, you begin to see people differently. You begin to notice things you had not noticed before. You begin to wonder about their internal experience rather than just reacting to their external behavior. Genuine listening is the next skill. Listening does not mean waiting for your turn to talk while maintaining the appearance of attention. Listening means actually absorbing what someone is saying. It means noticing not just their words, but their tone and their body language and the things they are not saying. It means being curious about what is underneath what they are saying. When someone tells you that they are fine, but their voice sounds strained, listening means noticing the discrepancy. When someone talks about an achievement but their energy seems flat, listening means noticing that the achievement might not feel as good as it sounds. When someone speaks about a relationship but their body is tense, listening means sensing that something is not right beneath the surface. The practice of reflective listening deepens understanding. This means that after someone shares something with you, you reflect back what you heard, not just in terms of content, but in terms of emotion and meaning. You might say something like, "It sounds like you are feeling frustrated because you put in all this effort and you did not get the recognition you were hoping for. Is that right?" This reflection accomplishes several things. It shows that you were actually listening. It gives the person a chance to correct you if you misunderstood. It helps the person feel understood because you have articulated what they were feeling underneath their words. And it deepens your understanding because you are essentially checking your interpretation against their reality. Understanding people also requires understanding their values and their priorities. People make decisions based on what matters to them. If you do not know what someone values, their decisions will seem random or illogical. But when you understand that someone prioritizes loyalty above all else, their choice to stay in a difficult situation suddenly makes sense. When you understand that someone prioritizes freedom and independence, their choice to leave a lucrative job suddenly makes sense. When you understand that someone prioritizes security, their careful approach to life suddenly makes sense. By understanding what people care about most, you understand why they do what they do. This requires asking people about what matters to them. What are your values? What do you want your life to be about? What would you regret not doing? What do you want to be remembered for? These questions reveal what is actually important to someone beneath the noise of daily demands and social expectations. Most people have never been asked these questions. They have spent their lives doing what they thought they should do, without ever really examining what they actually want to do. When you ask these questions and genuinely listen to the answers, you help people clarify their own values while simultaneously deepening your understanding of them. Understanding people also requires recognizing that everyone has a different communication style. Some people need to talk things out to process them. Some people need silence to think. Some people express love through words. Some people express love through actions. Some people need direct feedback. Some people need to hear what they did right before hearing what they did wrong. Some people process quickly and need immediate resolution. Some people need time to sit with things. When you understand someone's communication style, you can adapt your approach to meet them where they are. You stop expecting everyone to be like you, and you start honoring the different ways that people think and feel and communicate. This adaptation is not about changing who you are. It is about meeting people where they are, so that they actually receive what you are trying to communicate. If you have a direct communication style and you are talking to someone who is sensitive to criticism, delivering feedback in your usual direct way might shut them down. But if you slightly soften your approach while maintaining honesty, they might actually hear you. If you are someone who processes slowly, and you are in a relationship with someone who processes quickly, you might need to give them a timeline for when you will be ready to discuss something. This is not manipulation. This is respect. This is saying, I want you to actually understand what I am trying to communicate, so I am going to communicate in a way that you can hear. Deep connection also requires vulnerability. You cannot expect others to be vulnerable with you if you are not willing to be vulnerable with them. Vulnerability means showing the parts of yourself that you normally hide. It means admitting when you are wrong. It means sharing your fears and your insecurities. It means letting people see that you are human and imperfect. Many people avoid vulnerability because they think it makes them weak. But actually, vulnerability creates connection because it gives other people permission to be human too. When you share a struggle, someone else realizes that they are not the only one struggling. When you admit a fear, someone else realizes that their fear is not unique. When you show your imperfections, someone else relaxes because they no longer have to pretend to be perfect around you. Understanding people also requires empathy. Real empathy is not just intellectually understanding someone, it is actually feeling what they are feeling. It is imagining what their experience is like from their perspective. This requires temporarily suspending your own perspective and stepping into theirs. It requires asking yourself, what would I feel if I were in their situation? What would I be afraid of? What would I be hoping for? This imaginative process creates a bridge between your internal world and their internal world. You are no longer seeing them as separate from you. You are recognizing the shared humanity. You are recognizing that underneath all the differences, you both want to be loved and understood and valued. Many people confuse empathy with agreement. They think that if they empathize with someone, they are saying that the person is right. But empathy and agreement are different. You can completely disagree with someone's perspective or their choices while still empathizing with their experience. You can understand that someone is making a choice that you would not make while still respecting that choice because you understand what is driving it. You can recognize that someone is being defensive without judging them for being defensive because you understand the fear underneath the defensiveness. This kind of differentiated empathy is powerful because it allows people to feel understood even when you do not agree with them. Understanding people at a deeper level also means recognizing their wounds. Everyone has been hurt. Everyone has been rejected or criticized or abandoned or shamed at some point. These experiences leave marks. They create sensitivities. They shape how people show up in the world. When you understand someone's wounds, their defensive behaviors suddenly make sense. The person who constantly seeks reassurance has a wound around not being worthy. The person who pushes everyone away has a wound around betrayal. The person who is always trying to fix others has a wound around their own powerlessness. The person who dominates conversations has a wound around not being heard. When you see the wound beneath the behavior, you can respond with compassion instead of judgment. This does not mean that you accept harmful behavior. You can recognize someone's wound while still maintaining your boundaries. You can have empathy for why someone is behaving badly while still refusing to accept the bad behavior. You can understand that someone is hurt without sacrificing your own well-being to manage their hurt. This is the balance of boundaried empathy. You care about someone's experience. You understand where they are coming from. But you also take care of yourself. You do not give away your power. You do not absorb their pain. You maintain your own emotional boundaries while still holding space for their experience. Developing deep connections also requires consistency and reliability. You cannot develop trust with someone if you disappear when things get difficult or if you only show up when you need something. Deep connections are built through regular presence and through following through on commitments. When you say you will be there, you are there. When you say you care, you show it through your actions over time. Trust is built slowly through thousands of small moments where you prove that you are reliable and that you care. One big gesture does not create deep connection. Consistent presence over time does. Also important is celebrating the people you want to stay connected to. Many people focus on problems and challenges in their relationships, but forget to celebrate the good things. They point out mistakes, but do not acknowledge what someone did right. They criticize effort, but do not recognize growth. This creates a dynamic where people feel like they are never doing enough. But when you actively notice and celebrate what someone is doing well, what progress they are making, what strengths they are developing, something shifts. People feel seen in their best self. They feel motivated to continue growing. They feel appreciated and valued. This is what creates sustainable connection. Deep connection also requires being willing to have difficult conversations. Many relationships deteriorate because people avoid saying the things that matter. They let resentments build up. They pretend things are fine when they are not. But when two people are willing to have honest conversations about what is not working, what hurts, what is needed, the relationship actually gets stronger. The difficult conversation is scary, but it is also where real intimacy happens. It is where you are most vulnerable and most known. It is where the other person gets to show up for you by listening and understanding and caring, even when the conversation is hard. Finally, understand that understanding people is a practice, not a destination. You never fully understand another person because people are complex and evolving, but you can keep deepening your understanding. You can keep asking better questions. You can keep listening more deeply. You can keep stretching your capacity for empathy. You can keep showing up consistently and reliably. And as you do these things, the connections in your life become richer and more meaningful. The people around you feel more known and more valued. And perhaps most importantly, in understanding other people, you end up understanding yourself more deeply. You see your own patterns reflected in their patterns. You recognize your own wounds in their wounds. You develop compassion for yourself as you develop compassion for them. This is the gift of genuine understanding. It opens you to the world, and it opens the world to you. Chapter 8. Strengthen your mind and overcome any challenge you face. Your mind is either your greatest asset or your greatest liability. There is no middle ground. A strong mind can take a person from absolute zero to extraordinary success. A weak mind can take a person from privilege and advantage and destroy it all through self-sabotage and fear. The difference between people who overcome massive challenges and people who are defeated by small obstacles is not circumstance or luck or talent. The difference is mental strength. Mental strength is the capacity to stay focused on what matters when everything in you wants to quit. It is the capacity to face reality without flinching. It is the capacity to endure discomfort in service of something meaningful. It is the capacity to bounce back from failure and try again. This is not something you are born with. This is something you develop through practice and repetition and deliberate effort. The first pillar of mental strength is clarity. You cannot overcome challenges if you do not know what you are actually trying to overcome. Most people are vague about their problems. They know they feel stuck, but they cannot articulate why. They know something is wrong, but they cannot pinpoint what. They know they are not happy, but they cannot identify what would make them happy. This vagueness keeps them trapped because you cannot solve a problem you have not clearly defined. The first step toward overcoming any challenge is getting crystal clear about what the challenge actually is. What specifically is the problem? What exactly needs to change? What precisely are you trying to achieve? This clarity requires brutal honesty. You have to be willing to look at your situation without the filters of denial or minimization or blame. You have to be willing to see your own role in creating the problem. You have to be willing to acknowledge what is actually within your control and what is not. Many people waste enormous energy trying to control things they cannot control while ignoring the things they can control. You cannot control whether someone loves you, but you can control how you show up in the relationship. You cannot control whether you get the job, but you can control how well you prepare for the interview. You cannot control whether the market goes up, but you can control how you manage your money. When you get clear about what you can and cannot control, you can direct your energy wisely. The second pillar of mental strength is resilience. This is the capacity to get knocked down and get back up. Everyone gets knocked down. Everyone fails. Everyone experiences setbacks and disappointments and losses. The people who become strong do not avoid these experiences. They move through them. They feel the impact. They process the emotion. They learn the lesson. And then they get back up and try again. Resilience is not about not feeling pain. It is about feeling pain and continuing anyway. It is about falling apart and then putting yourself back together. It is about losing and then getting back in the game. Building resilience requires that you practice getting uncomfortable and then recovering. You do not build resilience by staying in your comfort zone. You build resilience by deliberately stepping into discomfort and discovering that you can handle it. You can take a cold shower and discover that you survive it. You can give a presentation and discover that even though you are nervous, you can do it. You can have a difficult conversation and discover that it does not destroy the relationship. Each time you do something that scares you and you survive it, your nervous system learns that you are capable. Your brain learns that you can handle difficulty. Your confidence in your ability to overcome challenges increases. The third pillar of mental strength is focus. Your mind can only hold one primary focus at a time. If your focus is scattered across 1,000 different worries and concerns, you cannot concentrate your power. Champions focus on what is immediately in front of them. They do not think about the entire mountain they have to climb. They think about the next step. They do not think about winning the entire season. They think about winning today's game. They do not think about losing weight and getting healthy and finding love and building a career all at once. They focus on one thing at a time and bring their full attention to that one thing. This concentrated focus is what produces results. Most people underestimate the power of sustained focus. They think that if they are not constantly thinking about a goal, they are failing. But actually, when you relax your obsessive thinking about a goal and instead focus on taking the right action today, better results emerge. You stop spinning in your head and you start producing in the world. You stop worrying about the outcome and you start focusing on the process. You stop trying to control everything and you start showing up fully to what is in front of you. This shift from outcome focus to process focus is what separates people who achieve their goals from people who get stuck in their heads. The fourth pillar of mental strength is purpose. When you know why you are doing something, you can endure almost anything to achieve it. People who lack purpose give up easily because there is nothing pulling them forward. But people who have a deep sense of purpose can endure enormous difficulty because they know it matters. Purpose is not something you find through introspection alone. Purpose emerges through action. You try things. You see what brings you alive. You see what feels meaningful. You see what you care about enough to sacrifice for. Over time, your purpose clarifies. And once you know your purpose, challenges become obstacles to overcome rather than reasons to quit. The fifth pillar is self-awareness. You cannot change what you do not see about yourself. Self-awareness means knowing your strengths and your weaknesses. It means knowing what triggers you and what calms you. It means knowing what you are good at and what you need to develop. It means knowing your values and your principles and what you will not compromise on. This self-knowledge comes from reflection and from feedback from others and from paying attention to your own patterns. When you know yourself, you can work with yourself rather than against yourself. You can set up systems that work with your nature rather than fighting your nature. The sixth pillar is learning orientation. The strongest minds are constantly learning and growing. They do not assume they already know things. They stay curious. They read. They ask questions. They pay attention to failure as information rather than as verdict. They see every setback as an opportunity to learn something. This learning orientation keeps your mind sharp and flexible. It prevents you from becoming rigid and stuck. It means you are always evolving your understanding of problems and solutions. The world is constantly changing, and the person who can adapt and learn and evolve is the person who will thrive. The seventh pillar is mental discipline. This is the capacity to do what you know you should do, even when you do not feel like doing it. Your feelings are not always accurate guides for what you should do. Sometimes you do not feel like working out, but you know you should. Sometimes you do not feel like having the difficult conversation, but you know you should. Sometimes you do not feel like persisting, but you know you should. Mental discipline is honoring your commitments to yourself and to your goals, even when your feelings are telling you to quit. This is not rigid or joyless. It is the structure that allows you to accomplish meaningful things. The eighth pillar is perspective. When you are in the middle of a challenge, it can feel enormous and all-consuming, but perspective allows you to see the challenge in the context of your entire life. You remember that you have overcome difficulties before. You remember that this too shall pass. You remember that this one setback does not define your entire life. You remember that you have people who care about you and resources you can draw on. Perspective prevents you from catastrophizing. It prevents you from making the challenge bigger than it actually is. It helps you stay calm and resourced, even when circumstances are difficult. The ninth pillar is accountability. You cannot fool yourself into growth. You have to actually do the work. Accountability means you are honest about your progress and your failures. You do not make excuses. You do not blame others. You do not pretend things are better than they are. You acknowledge reality and you adjust your approach accordingly. Accountability also means you share your commitments with others so that you have external motivation to follow through. You tell someone what you are committing to and you report your progress to them. This external accountability often makes the difference between success and failure. The 10th pillar is acceptance. This is different from resignation. Acceptance means you acknowledge what is true without fighting reality. You cannot change the past. You can only learn from it and move forward. You cannot control what other people do. You can only control your response. You cannot control many of the circumstances you find yourself in. You can only control how you interpret them and respond to them. When you stop fighting reality and start accepting it, you free up enormous energy. That energy is no longer going into denial and resentment. It is available for actually dealing with the situation. Strengthening your mind is like strengthening your body. You cannot do it all at once. You develop it gradually through consistent practice. You start with small challenges and you build from there. You fail and you try again. You stumble and you get back up. Each time you do this, you are building mental strength. Each time you face something difficult and you find out that you can handle it, you are expanding your capacity. Over time, challenges that would have once seemed impossible become manageable because you have built the mental strength to handle them. Also understand that mental strength is not about never struggling or never feeling afraid or never doubting yourself. It is about struggling and continuing anyway. It is about being afraid and moving forward despite the fear. It is about doubting yourself and taking action anyway. This is what it means to be mentally strong. It is not the absence of difficulty. It is the capacity to move through difficulty with intention and purpose. When you strengthen your mind, you can overcome any challenge you face. External circumstances matter less than your internal capacity to handle circumstances. Two people facing the same challenge will have completely different outcomes based on their mental strength. The person with a strong mind will see the challenge as an opportunity to prove what they are capable of. They will stay focused on what they can control. They will learn from setbacks. They will keep moving forward. They will find a way through or around or over the obstacle. The person with a weak mind will be defeated by the same challenge. They will focus on what they cannot control. They will give up after the first setback. They will convince themselves that it is impossible. The only difference is mental strength. And mental strength is something you can build starting right now. Chapter 9. Create your vision and design the life you want. Most people drift through life without ever consciously deciding what they want. They follow a path that was laid out for them by their parents or their culture or their circumstances. They do what they think they should do rather than what they actually want to do. They end up at destinations they never chose, and then they wake up at 40 or 50 and realize that they have been living someone else's life. This is one of the greatest tragedies that can befall a human being. Not failure, not poverty, not struggle, but reaching the end of your life and realizing that you never actually decided what your life would be about. Creating a vision for your life is not frivolous or self-indulgent. It is essential. Your vision is the North Star that guides your decisions. It is the measure against which you evaluate opportunities. It is the motivation that keeps you going when things get difficult. Without a vision, you are like a ship without a rudder, drifting wherever the currents take you. With a vision, you have direction and purpose. Every decision becomes easier because you can ask, does this move me toward my vision or away from it? The challenge is that most people have never been taught how to create a vision. They think that a vision is something that magically appears or something that only applies to business and entrepreneurs. But actually, a personal vision is something everyone can and should create, and it is a skill that can be learned and developed. Your vision does not have to be grand or world-changing. It just has to be true for you. It just has to reflect what actually matters to you, rather than what you think should matter to you. Creating a vision starts with getting radically honest about what you actually want. Not what sounds impressive. Not what will make other people respect you. Not what seems realistic or achievable. Just what you actually want. This requires quieting all the other voices and listening to your own voice. Many people have spent so long listening to what others expect that they have lost touch with what they actually want. They have suppressed their own desires so many times that they cannot hear them anymore. Reconnecting with your true desires is the first step toward creating an authentic vision. One practice that helps is imagining your life 5 years from now if everything went exactly the way you wanted it to. Not in a magical fantasy way, but in a realistic way based on you actually doing the work and making it happen. What would your life look like? What would you be doing? Who would you be spending time with? What would you have accomplished? What would you have learned? What kind of person would you have become? Write this out in detail. The more specific you can be, the more real it becomes. Instead of, "I want to be happy," you might write, "I want to wake up at 6 in the morning, feeling rested and excited about the day ahead. I want to have a job where I am using my creativity and helping people and making enough money that I feel secure. I want to have a close group of friends who know me deeply, and I want a partner who I trust and who makes me laugh. I want to have traveled to 3 new countries and learned to speak conversational Spanish." This level of specificity is what transforms a vague dream into a concrete vision. Once you have written out your vision, you need to examine it and make sure it is actually coming from you and not from internalized expectations. Ask yourself for each element of the vision, do I actually want this, or do I think I should want this? Does this reflect my values, or does this reflect someone else's values? Am I designing this life because it calls to me, or because I think it will make me acceptable? This examination is crucial because many people's visions are actually just polished versions of what their parents wanted for them or what society told them they should want. A vision that is not authentically yours will not sustain you when things get difficult. Once you have a clear vision, you need to break it down into milestones. A vision that is 5 years away can feel overwhelming and abstract. But if you break it into 1-year milestones and 6-month milestones and even 1-month milestones, it becomes manageable. You can see the steps. You can see what needs to happen first and what can happen later. A vague vision becomes a concrete roadmap. If your vision is to have a thriving business in 5 years, your 1-year milestone might be to have launched the business and have your first 10 paying clients. Your 6-month milestone might be to have developed your service offering and started marketing. Your first month milestone might be to do the market research and write your business plan. These milestones need to be specific and measurable. Vague goals like "work on my business" do not create accountability or clarity. Specific goals like "launch my website by March 15th" or "land my first 3 clients by June" create clarity about what success looks like. You know whether you hit the goal or not. You can track your progress. You can adjust your approach if you are not on track. This specificity is what separates people who achieve their visions from people who dream about their visions forever. Designing the life you want also requires looking at all the different dimensions of your life and making sure your vision is balanced. Your work is important, but not more important than your health or your relationships. Your ambitions are important, but not more important than your peace of mind. Many people create visions that are all about achievement, or all about relationships, or all about health, and they end up with lives that are out of balance. The vision that sustains you over time is one that honors all the important dimensions of your life. It is one where you are making progress in your career and also spending meaningful time with people you love and also taking care of your physical and mental health. Also important is making sure your vision is aligned with your values. Your values are the principles that matter most to you. Maybe you value integrity and creativity and connection. Maybe you value independence and growth and making a difference. Maybe you value security and family and learning. Your vision should reflect these values. If you value family, but your vision includes working 80-hour weeks, there is a misalignment. If you value integrity, but your vision involves cutting corners to get ahead, there is a misalignment. The visions that feel right and that sustain you are the ones where every element is an expression of your core values. Creating your vision also means identifying what you need to become in order to live that vision. A vision is not just about external circumstances, it is also about who you need to be. If your vision involves being a confident public speaker, but you currently struggle with anxiety, you need to work on becoming more confident. If your vision involves having healthy relationships, but you currently struggle with communication, you need to work on becoming a better communicator. If your vision involves financial success, but you currently struggle with money management, you need to work on becoming more disciplined with money. The person you need to become is just as important as the circumstances you need to create. This is actually empowering because becoming is more within your control than circumstances are. You cannot always control whether you get the job or the promotion or the client or the relationship, but you can control whether you work on becoming a person who is prepared for those opportunities. You can control whether you develop the skills and the mindset and the character that would allow you to succeed if those opportunities come. This shift from focusing on outcomes to focusing on becoming is transformative. It gives you something to do right now. You do not have to wait for the perfect opportunity. You can start becoming right now. Your vision also needs to be challenging but believable. If your vision is so easy that you do not have to grow, it will not inspire you. If your vision is so impossible that you do not believe you can achieve it, you will not persist. The sweet spot is a vision that requires you to stretch and grow and develop, but that you genuinely believe is possible if you do the work. This is where real motivation lives. This is where you find the willingness to persist through difficulty because you can actually see yourself achieving it. Also critical is reviewing and refining your vision regularly. Life changes, you change, your priorities shift. What you wanted 5 years ago might not be what you want now. Your vision should evolve as you evolve. You should review your vision quarterly or semi-annually and ask, does this still feel true for me? Are there things I want to add, or remove, or shift? This is not failure. This is growth. Your vision should be a living document that reflects who you are becoming, not a rigid pronouncement that you made once and then ignore forever. Finally, designing the life you want requires taking action aligned with your vision. A vision without action is just daydreaming. A vision with action becomes reality. Every day you have the opportunity to choose to move toward your vision or away from it. Every decision, every hour, every dollar either moves you closer or moves you further away. When you are conscious of this, you start making different choices. You say no to things that do not serve your vision. You say yes to things that do. You spend your time on what matters. You invest in yourself. You take the risks that are necessary to get where you want to go. The person who has a clear vision and takes consistent action aligned with that vision will go further than the person who has no vision or no action. This is not magical. This is just how reality works. Direction plus effort equals results. Without direction, effort is wasted. Without effort, direction does not matter. But when you combine them, when you have a crystal clear vision of where you want to go, and you take daily action in that direction, nothing can stop you. You will face obstacles and setbacks, but you will keep moving forward because you know where you are going. You will face doubt and fear, but you will keep moving forward because your vision matters more than your comfort. You will watch other people achieve things, and you will keep moving forward because you are playing your own game, not theirs. This is what it means to design your life. This is what it means to be the architect of your own existence rather than a passenger in someone else's story. Chapter 10. Commit to daily progress and become unstoppably successful now. Success is not a destination you arrive at after one heroic effort. Success is a direction you move toward through 1,000 small choices made consistently over time. Every single person who has accomplished something meaningful knows this truth. They did not wake up one day transformed. They woke up every day and did one thing. Then the next day, they did one thing. Then the next day they did one thing, and after a year of this, they looked back and they barely recognized the distance they had traveled. This is how real success works. This is the secret that separates people who transform their lives from people who stay stuck despite knowing exactly what they should do. The philosophy of daily progress is simple but profound. You do not have to be perfect. You do not have to make huge breakthroughs. You do not have to have everything figured out. You just have to move forward one step every single day. One step is not glamorous. One step does not feel like much in the moment. But one step every day for a year is 365 steps. One step every day for 5 years is 125 steps. You cannot take 125 steps and end up in the same place. The distance you travel is determined by your consistency, not by the size of each individual step. Most people are waiting for inspiration or motivation to show up before they take action. They are waiting to feel ready. They are waiting for the perfect moment. They are waiting for everything to align. And while they are waiting, nothing changes. The secret that successful people know is that you do not wait for motivation. You create motivation through action. The act of doing something moves you forward, physically and psychologically. Your brain registers that you are moving toward your goal. Your confidence increases. Your sense of identity starts to shift. You start to see yourself as someone who is making progress, and this identity becomes self-fulfilling. As you see yourself as someone who shows up, you show up more. As you see yourself as someone who is disciplined, you become more disciplined. As you see yourself as someone who is moving toward their vision, you continue to move. The compound effect is the mathematical principle that explains why daily progress is so powerful. Small changes compounded over time produce extraordinary results. 1% improvement every day does not sound like much, but 1% improvement compounded over a year is 37% improvement. Compounded over 5 years, you are unrecognizable compared to where you started. This is why the person who improves their health by 1% every day ends up fit and strong. This is why the person who improves their skills by 1% every day becomes excellent. This is why the person who improves their relationships by 1% every day develops deep connections. The compound effect rewards consistency. It does not reward intensity or perfection. It rewards showing up day after day and moving in the right direction. Committing to daily progress requires first establishing what daily progress actually looks like for you. It is not the same for everyone. For someone building a business, daily progress might be making 10 calls to potential clients. For someone improving their health, daily progress might be a 30-minute workout and eating one healthy meal. For someone working on relationships, daily progress might be having one deep conversation with someone they care about. For someone developing a skill, daily progress might be practicing for 1 hour. The specific action does not matter as much as the consistency and the alignment with your vision. You need to know what one step looks like for you. You need to make it small enough that you can do it even on days when you do not feel like it. You need to make it specific enough that there is no ambiguity about whether you did it or not. This is where most people fail. They commit to vague intentions like, I am going to work on my business, or I am going to improve my health. But vague intentions do not create results. Specific commitments do. I am going to work on my business is too vague. You could spend an hour on your business and feel like you did something, even if you just organized your desk. But I am going to call 5 potential clients is specific. You either did it or you did not. There is no gray area. This clarity is what transforms intentions into results. Once you have clarity about what daily progress looks like, you need to remove all the barriers that stand between you and that action. Make it as easy as possible to show up. If you are committed to exercising daily, lay out your workout clothes the night before. If you are committed to writing daily, have your laptop open and ready. If you are committed to making calls, have your list of phone numbers prepared. The easier you make it to start, the more likely you are to actually do it. Most people wait until they feel motivated, and then they wonder why they never follow through. Instead, remove the friction and just do the thing. Your motivation will follow your action, not precede it. Tracking your progress is essential because you cannot manage what you do not measure. When you track your daily actions, something powerful happens. You become aware of your consistency. You see the chain of successful days accumulating. You do not want to break the chain. This simple psychological principle is incredibly powerful. A calendar with an X for every day you showed up creates momentum. A list of completed actions creates evidence that you are moving forward. This evidence reinforces your identity as someone who follows through. It reinforces your belief that you are capable of achieving your goals. Accountability accelerates your progress. When you know that someone is going to ask you whether you took action toward your goal, you are more likely to take action. This is not because you are weak or because you cannot be trusted. It is because accountability creates external structure when internal discipline wavers. Find a friend who is also committed to daily progress and check in with them each day. Join a community of people who are working towards similar goals and share your progress. Tell your family about your commitment so that they can support you and hold you accountable. The more people who know about your commitment, the more real it becomes and the more motivated you will be to follow through. But accountability needs to be structured correctly. It should not be shame-based. It should not be about judging yourself for days you miss. Healthy accountability is about honest reporting and course correction. Some days you will miss your target. This is normal and expected. What matters is what you do the next day. Do you get right back on track, or do you use one missed day as an excuse to abandon your commitment? The people who succeed are the ones who miss occasionally and then immediately return to their commitment. They do not beat themselves up. They do not use it as evidence that they cannot do this. They simply acknowledge that they missed, and they get back to it. Also important is celebrating your progress. Many people focus so intensely on the gap between where they are and where they want to be that they forget to acknowledge how far they have already come. They complete their daily action and immediately move on to the next thing. But taking a moment to acknowledge that you did it, that you showed up, that you took another step toward your vision is important. This celebration might be as simple as checking off the day on your calendar or telling yourself, I did what I said I would do. This acknowledgement is powerful because it creates a positive feedback loop. Your brain learns that showing up feels good. Your brain learns that progress feels good. And your brain wants to repeat things that feel good. Momentum is perhaps the most powerful force in achieving success. Momentum is what happens when you string together multiple days of showing up. It is not the individual days that create the breakthrough. It is the accumulated force of day after day after day moving in the same direction. Momentum makes the next day easier. When you have already done something for 10 days, doing it on day 11 requires less willpower. Your brain has started to encode the pattern. Your body has started to expect it. Your identity has started to include it. By day 30, the action that felt impossible on day 1 now feels normal. By day 90, it feels automatic. This is when you know you have truly committed. The goal is to reach the point where your daily progress is not something you have to motivate yourself to do. It becomes part of who you are. You are someone who works on their business every day. You are someone who exercises every day. You are someone who shows up for the people they care about every day. This identity shift is the real transformation, because once your identity changes, you do not have to rely on willpower or discipline anymore. You do what you do because of who you are. And who you are is not open for negotiation. You do not ask yourself whether you feel like working today any more than you ask yourself whether you feel like brushing your teeth. It is just something you do. Dealing with obstacles is part of daily progress. There will be days when you are sick and you cannot work out. There will be days when unexpected things come up and you cannot execute your plan. There will be days when you feel overwhelmed or discouraged or unmotivated. This is all part of the process. The person who never faces obstacles is not ambitious enough. But the person who lets one obstacle derail them for months is the one who fails. The reality is somewhere in the middle. You will face obstacles. You will miss some days. The question is whether you have a plan for getting back on track when this happens. The 2-day rule is helpful here. If you miss one day, try not to miss the next day. One missed day is a slip. 2 missed days is the beginning of a new pattern. By maintaining the chain as much as possible, you maintain your momentum and your identity. You do not let one slip become a spiral. You acknowledge what happened and you get back to work. This requires self-compassion. It requires understanding that you are human and imperfect, and that setbacks do not negate all your previous progress. Understanding why you committed in the first place is what carries you through the difficult moments. When you do not feel like showing up, you return to your why. Why does this matter to you? What does achieving this goal mean for your life? Who are you becoming by committing to this daily progress? Your why is what pulls you forward when your willpower is depleted. Your why is what reminds you that this is important, even though it is hard. Your why is what turns motivation into commitment. Becoming unstoppably successful through daily progress is not dramatic. It is quiet and consistent and seemingly unremarkable. From the outside, it just looks like someone showing up every day and doing the work. But from the inside, it is revolutionary. Every day, you are reshaping your identity. Every day, you are rewiring your brain. Every day, you are gathering evidence that you are capable and committed. Every day, you are moving closer to the person you want to become and the life you want to live. After weeks of this, you will barely recognize yourself. After months of this, people around you will start to notice the change. After a year of this, you will have accomplished things that you would not have thought possible when you started. This is the truth that successful people live by. They do not wait for the perfect moment. They do not wait for inspiration. They do not wait for everything to be figured out. They start with what they have, where they are, and they move forward, one day at a time. They show up, even when they do not feel like it. They persist through doubt and fear and setbacks. They celebrate small wins, and they learn from failures. They stay focused on the direction they are moving rather than obsessing over the distance they still have to travel. And by doing this, day after day after day, they become unstoppable. Not because they are superhuman or specially gifted, but because they understand that unstoppable success is built through the unglamorous practice of daily progress. Your success starts now. Your transformation starts now. Your commitment to showing up every single day, regardless of how you feel, regardless of how small the step seems, regardless of how far away the goal seems, starts now. This is how you become unstoppable. This is how you create the life you actually want to live.